Hi, welcome to Angels Nook, where anything can become a canvas for creativity. Furniture is just the beginning. Be prepared to be inspired by a wide range of projects and finishing techniques. Be sure to click subscribe so you don't miss any of the new videos. Hi, welcome back to Angels Nook. Today I'm going to be working on some pumpkins. These I'm not going to be trying to make realistic. There'll be some coming in future videos that are. But I wanted to show you how with any of the types of pumpkins, whether it's already painted, whether it's a white one, that you can change it to something else. And one of the things that is becoming very popular both in decor and also just to send a message to people as they come to your house for trick-or-treating is to have blue pumpkins, both to have it as a decor option and also just to let people know that you are welcoming and understand children with autism. So that's what we're going to be working on today, is some blue pumpkins and seeing what you can do with them to use them as indoor decor, perhaps throughout the year instead of just in the fall. So what I have here is a mix. I honestly cannot tell you what the exact colors are, but the blue you use could be any blue that you like. I'm actually going to tint this a little bit darker with some polo. I know it had some stormy in it, maybe some Amalfi. I was mixing it for a small project and wound up mixing more than I needed and just put it in a jar and said, hey, I'll keep it someday, I'll use it, and today's the someday. So I wanted to let you see that even if the pumpkin you have gotten is orange or whatever, it's still easy to change it to another color. I collected the pumpkins on clearance and on sale because they can be pretty hefty in price, but if you can find good sales on them, this is a good way to create some decor that you like for your home. It's not necessarily what's out on the market. I'm using a small brush because I've also got these smaller pumpkins and it's easier to get a small brush into the crevices than just filling the big Syntec brush. You could certainly use the Syntec brush. I just think on small things I have better luck with a small brush, and you still want to make sure you're really loading that brush. I'm not going to get all the way underneath. I will catch that after this upper part has dried. You should be able to see that even though this was bright orange, just even this first coat is covering really well, as long as you don't try to do the paint super thin. And the roller did a fine job getting into the grooves of this pumpkin. I'm rolling across the brush strokes first because that will give you more even coverage. Now, this one's ready for its first coat to dry. It's definitely going to need a second coat. But on the white, I may well get by with one coat on these. This one's a little trickier because the neck of it is not staying in place. And except for the bottom of this, which is going to need to be painted after the upper part has dried, I like the way the blue looks, and I don't think it's going to need a second coat. It is going to need the rest of the steps of what I want to do with it. So these others are going to get their solid coats of blue done off camera. As soon as this dried, I realized immediately what colors I had used with this. The colors that were mixed in this, that were in that mason jar that I had, were old Color Club colors, which they had some hot colors to them and some icy colors. And this was the Aloha from that. And then there was also a color that was the same as the color blue in Frozen. And that's what had been, I had mixed this for a small project of some kind 3 or 4 years ago now. So that's why this color looks really hot, and it does not look like your normal HTP mixes. You couldn't mix this color right now, but you could mix blues to do the pumpkins. And what I'm going to do with this one first is I'm going to apply some whitewash onto it. These were mixed off camera. And I forgot to mention that the pumpkins were deglossed off camera too. Now that has tremendously softened the blue to this, and it's given some texture to it. On this second one, I'm going to use Pearl, which has some iridescence to it. And this one I don't want to wipe back. This one I want to use the brush strokes to give it the look that I want. I'm not getting very much of the metallic on my brush at all, because if I put it on heavy, it's going to come out like just a full coat of paint that would need to be wiped back, and that's not what I want with this. I'm going back to the top here to lightly touch this with my brush so that all of these movements of the paint are coming out toward these individual sections of the pumpkin. And hopefully you can see the iridescence of that. So I'm going to do one more of these with the white wiped back and one more with the iridescent and off camera, and then when we come back I'll do another step to them. These have completely dried now overnight. Any of the antiquing gels have a longer dry time because they have an open work time. The goal being that you can apply them, wipe them back, you can mist them with water to remove them or simply to blend them. So they don't dry as fast as the paint. So especially if you're adding another layer, you want to give them time to completely dry. The ones that I added the white and wiped back, all they're going to get is their stems painted out white. I'll let a little bit of the underneath come through on it so that it's not totally a solid color. I'm using the antiquing gels simply because it's handy, it's easy. Now this one, because of its green tone, it may need yellowy green tone. It may need more than one coat, I'm not sure. I'll let it dry out and then decide. To get a smooth finish, you need to follow the lines and grooves on something like this. And this may very well need a second coat, but I'll let it dry and see what it does. Now these, I'm going to add a little bit of gunmetal, which is a silvery blue. It's got a hint of black to it. I'm not sure how it's going to look on here, so I'm going to give it a try. If I don't like it, I can always take it back out. By spraying it with water. These were both stirred off camera. I don't like it heavy, so I'm wiping it back. My brush is almost completely dry, so that's how I can get that back into it. It's just adding a little bit of highlight to the top of this. Then the stem, I'm going to take it completely gunmetal. And when that dries, it'll be a shimmery, dark silver. On this one, I'm going to do it just a little bit differently. Actually, I'm going to use the sponge again. And just do some highlights. Sorry. You can see this is trying to do spots on me at the very bottom as I'm coming off of it. So by adding the water, I can blend that out and get rid of that look. This now has a little bit of water on it, so I'm probably not going to need to put any more antiquing gel on here to get the look I want. So just the tiniest bit of water on here. And I am going to need just a little bit more, but not much. Like that, because there was a piece there. It's too much. And this handle is also more stem. I'm using it as a handle, so that's what it's thinking coming up as in my head. Because of how this was made on the top, it's easier to just add some silver in here and blend it out than to try to keep a perfect edge on the bottom of that, because it's so rough with how this was made. That's sometimes how decisions are made for you when you're working on something of, oh, that's going to do that. Well, what can I do to make it work for me? Move and turn and look at something like this when you're doing it, because there are all kinds of little places where that from one side it will look like You've got the paint on it with the antiquing gel. But when you turn it, you're like, oh, that didn't work at all. Let these dry and see how they look once they've dried, because they will change. The coloration changes and the look changes as they dry. These were all finished off camera. The bottom was glazed and the handle, I'm sorry, I keep calling this a handle because I held them like handles. The stems of these two, this one I left the way it was, but I did have to add an extra coat of white to this because that horrible greenish yellow was still coming through. This, by applying the antiquing gel and wiping it, has created a rougher type surface look to it, a more textured look. And on these, by adding the gunmetal different ways on the two of these, it definitely creates two different looks. So this is not, the colors that I used are not available right now, but you can use a variety of other colors. You could use a multi, you could use Mediterranean lightened. There are several colors that are possible to use, or mixing blues until you found what you wanted. Stormy is a little bit light for this, but some of the other colors would work really well, polo included, to make blues colored pumpkins. The other thing is, this isn't limited. If you want a color for a pumpkin for your decor for whatever reason, you could use any color, base color that you want. And it may be that if you were using other colors, you would not choose to use the gunmetal. You might choose to use the champagne or the gold to accent it. You could do greens, you could do yellows, you could do corals. There's all different things that you could do with this if you wanted this type of look and you did not want the traditional pumpkin colors for your decor. So hope this has inspired you with some ideas and creativity for what you want to do. And thanks for watching.